Hello, Dark Reader, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about, on this minisode, Justin Cronin's The Ferryman. If you are unfamiliar with who Justin Cronin is, maybe this will help remind you. He wrote the Passage trilogy, which is like this big vampire trilogy. It became a TV show. I think Fox did it in 2010, and it had some okay reviews, I believe. I actually have not seen nor have I read the book. In fact, my co-host Carrie is obsessed with The Passage, and she does talk about it often, and I feel horrible because I still haven't read it. Apparently I need to, because I really enjoyed The Ferryman. So let me just tell you what this book is about. So we have these three islands. We have Prospera. As you can probably tell by the name, it is a prosperous place. People there live very rich lives, like they are the elite people. Then we have the Annex, and then we also have this other place called the Nursery. Our main character's name is Proctor Bennett, and he acts as a ferryman. So this is a really interesting job, and I love this concept. His job is when people get to about 10% of their general well-being. So people have these implants that are put inside of them that monitor, I think, almost everything, like from mental health, physical health. So if you get around that area or below, you are then sent to the nursery. So it's the ferryman's job to escort these people to the nursery. It's basically their end of life. But actually what is happening is that they are reprogrammed or reiterated in a way. So they come back as 16-year-olds and kind of relive another life over again. But they have to, I guess, let go of the life they have behind. Their memories are totally wiped. They aren't given back to some sort of associated family usually. So it's a well rounded system they have going on. So they don't really die per se, but they lose a lot of the things that they love, like their spouses, their children, their houses, that kind of thing. Proctor's job is to escort people to this nursery. And Proctor also lives on the island of Prospera. So he actually chose this job. Something cool, I guess, about this is that because they live on Prospera, they're able to pick their careers. They have a lot more freedom. They are fancy folk. They eat lobster every day if they want to, go to operas, and, they're very well-educated and well-to-do people. But then you have the people who live on the Annex. So those are the people that are actually more the working class. The place has to run somehow. So almost everybody, I think actually everybody, we don't go to everybody's house, obviously, but in Prospera, they even have servants. Usually the servants are people from the Annex, people who are dealing with all the plumbing. I'm sure people who build houses, at least the actual hard workers, not the planners and the architects. But so you kind of get the gist here. There's a few things that happen in this book, and I'm going to have to talk about probably only 50% of it because I think there's at least 3 different levels to it. I think the book is divided up into 4 sections technically, and some of the big crazy twists that happen are actually like smack dab in the middle of the book, and everything gets flipped up. It's crazy. So this whole book, I gave it it's about a 4, maybe a little high 4.5-ish on my list. It's a pretty solid book, but it is like a fever dream. It's very unique, but it's also not unique at the same time. Justin Cronin, I think this book has definitely been inspired by a lot of classic stories that are out there, but he's definitely made this one his own and expanded on some things. And even though there's themes from one story, he takes from themes that are in a very different sci-fi realm. It's very cool. So I do recommend it, but it's a very long book. So let me talk a little further about the story. I gave you a basic summary of this. but I haven't told you what the issue is here, because why is Proctor having any issues? He lives on Prospera. It's a great place to be. So here's the problem. He's a ferryman. He escorts people. The one thing that does happen is there's a series of events that kind of unfold oddly around the same time, and it's led him to question this utopia that is Prospera. Our character Proctor is a bit of a tragic character. He's married to a woman named Elise, and Elise's mom has a lot of power. She works in a very high place in Prospera, and they had a very solid relationship in the very beginning, but Elise seems to have developed, I guess she's a little more self-centered. She's a fashion designer, and she doesn't really think about Proctor anymore. They've been together or have had a contract together, so people don't get married and then they get divorced. And I actually like this system. I think it's pretty great. You can sign contracts for an X amount of years that you're with your significant other, and then if it's over, it's over. If you want to keep going, you can it's like signing a lease. So that's pretty cool. So they've had a very long lease together. Something I forgot to mention, though, is that usually what happens is that long-standing couples, they do end up adopting a ward. And those are those 16-year-olds. So when you kind of like reset and you become 16 years old, they adopt those wards, and they have children essentially together and raise children together. So Elise and Proctor have not been able to do that. Elise seems pretty reluctant, and Proctor, I think he deep down he really yearns for having a ward. Not only that, I have to rewind a little bit. And again, there is a lot going on in this book, and there's quite a few characters, so I'm going to try to keep it limited to the really pivotal ones. So Proctor actually, when he was a ward, something that was really interesting for him is that he actually had dreams. Something that does not happen in this world is people do not dream. And his were very, very prevalent dreams. And so dreaming and being a ward, all of those things for Proctor are kind of hot spots for him, because it revolves around his mother, some of the hardships he felt like he might have given her that resulted in something that happens to her in the end. But anyway, so that's a lot that's going on in the background with Proctor, is his want for a ward. And another event that actually does happen in this story alongside of one of the bigger events is he runs into this girl named Kaylee. Basically, this girl is a ward. She's like 16 years old. She's a little sassy. She's alone for some reason. And she wants to learn how to swim because she sees Proctor swimming. And so he's like, but his longing for a ward, basically, he's like, I know this is a weird thing. Like, she's not my ward, but what's the harm? She wants to learn how to swim, and I'm already swimming. So, like, they plan, like, a little swim date, and it becomes somebody that he confides in, and they start to grow this really strong relationship with each other. So more things start to unravel for Proctor. Because Proctor's a ferryman, and he escorts people to their reset, essentially, to the nursery island. What happens is that he is assigned to do that, to escort his own father to the nursery. Him and his father they've been estranged, so they haven't spoken to each other for a long time, but what it seems like in the past is that they had an okay relationship. Some things happened, and they just didn't have as close of a relationship as they used to. So as he's escorting his father to the ferry, like, of course, lots of things come up. And there's, of course, normal things that come up. So for Proctor's father, he has moments of, like, fear and anxiety. And it is Proctor's job to let him know, hey, it's normal. Like, things are going to be great. All of this stuff. So there's things that they're not totally off. But again, it's kind of like, well, it's Proctor's father, and Proctor has to do this. So by the time they get to the ferries, literal ferries, and Proctor's father sees it, he kind of goes a little nutty, and he tries to escape. And so a whole set of events happens. Proctor, of course, seeks him out, chases him down, but then they have the Watchers, who are basically like your enforcers on the island, your police people. They were a little more handsy with Proctor's father, and Proctor kind of loses it and assaults one and is like, get your hands off of my father. And because he's being tased, the Watcher's tasing his father. So he's, of course, understandably upset. Anyway, so Proctor's father tells Proctor this word, this surreal, abstract thing, and he keeps kind of going on about it. And Proctor's like, what? He's like, well, his father's mental state is definitely decaying. There's a reason why he's having to go to the nursery, that sort of thing. So then more events kind of build into this. He's grieving for his father. It's very complicated. And this all seems to happen within days of each other. Elise is really concerned because they have a show, and she's like, yeah, I know, Proctor, you're going through some stuff. I know your dad died, but let's care about me now. Oh, she can be really irksome in parts of this book. And then, Proctor's dealing with all of this stuff, and he runs into this woman whose name is Thea Thermopolis at a play. Thea and him it's like a bit of a whirlwind thing that happens there. So more things start to unravel for Proctor, and it becomes very clear that there's some issues with this utopia. He starts to question the place that he lives, which then in turn starts to escalate an already problematic issue between the annex, so the working class, and Prospera, so the more elite people. So it ends up being this huge ordeal. Things start to line up for Proctor, and all of this whole set of events seems to be a little too weird and too connected. So this is like 50% of the novel. So this whole problem solving, this whole event between the Annex and Prospera, like that is just the 50%. And then we start to see so many more things unravel as we progress through this novel. And I mean, that means so many. This book is quite large. It took me a very long time not a very long time, like it took longer than I anticipated to get through this novel. I did the audiobook, and it's actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it. And I think I really enjoyed the first half more than I did the second half, but I enjoyed the whole thing. The second half feels, I don't know, I think I was relying more on my feelings versus how much of it actually made sense, and I'm hoping that as the days pass, things will start to flood in for me, and I'll be like, okay, here's all the ducks in the row, I'm getting it. But it deals with a lot of different themes. This is a very cool, different sci-fi novel. It's not one that not a kind I've reviewed anytime lately. It's really refreshing. I thought it was a really well done novel, even though it had so many different twists and turns that might seem a little out of place or a little ludicrous. It seems to line up fine, and it all makes sense as you keep going. There wasn't really a period of time in the story that I felt bored. It was paced very well. If you really are into more sci-fi novels or stories, I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler. I'm trying my best not to spoil the story because, like I said, it's so hard to summarize all of these themes that are going on because Justin Cronin really does put this whole story on its head a few times, and you're just like, okay, what? This is happening now? And it's pretty great. So if you do like stories, spoiler, that are similar to, we have like The Matrix, Stranger in a Strange Land. I even had a feeling it was going to be like Brave New World. Like there's a lot of different stories and elements in here that I was like, are we dealing with this kind of theme or is it going to be this? And it was really solid. It was really good. It's almost like it took a little bit of everything and still made it its own and also something we've seen before. Anyway, I could keep going about this novel, but I do urge you to check out The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. It is a read, so maybe if you have some sit-down time to really read something and you've got the headspace for it, it's really fun. I thought this was a great time to read it too, with all this silly alien stuff like, is the government hiding things from us? You know, that it's always fun to kind of correlate accidentally that way. So check out Justin Cronin's Ferryman. It's a really, really good sci-fi dystopian novel. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you are looking for some other dark reads, make sure to subscribe, to give us a follow over here on YouTube and over on our socials at Dark Side of the Library. All of the links are down below in the description, or you can just find us on Instagram and Facebook, and our show notes at darksideofthelibrary.com. If you are a shopaholic like we are over here, you can join our shopping channel at amazon.com/live/darksideofthelibrary. Thank you so much. Make sure to spread the word about Dark Side of the Library to all your spooky friends, and we will see you next time.